All right, well, thank you very much for the opportunity to present on behalf of the Interstitial Cystitis Association. The new leadership, by the way, of which consists of myself and my colleague Claudia King, who is the CEO. So what we want to do is really two basic things today. First, we want to explicitly insert the patient voice, and then I want to highlight the importance of engaging with patient advocacy organizations like ours. So hopefully you're familiar with the ICA, but just to reiterate, we are the only national nonprofit in the United States dedicated to serving this community. We strive to accomplish our mission through three strategies. So advocacy is incredibly important. We were actually just on the Hill a couple of weeks ago. We engage in education of our stakeholders, and we try to create safe spaces for our community to engage with one another. I think what's really important about us, though, is our emphasis on evidence-based information. We work really hard to make sure that our patient community can make the most informed decisions they can about their own care. I'll be honest, I see a lot of anecdote being used for treatment decisions and some just straight up misinformation that we work really hard every day to combat. And we always try to bring things back to what does the scientific literature say? So I want to come to the patient voice, and I will tell you there is so much good qualitative research out there. But what I'm going to do is just give you a few direct patient quotes that I think highlight some of the things that we should be keeping in mind as we talk about consensus. So obviously, it's not a surprise to this group based on the discussion we've had over the past day that there are diagnostic challenges. It's kind of interesting to me that I've been presenting on this for a couple of decades, and 10, 20 years ago, I'd be focusing on delays in diagnosis. And that's still happening, but I think the diagnostic challenges that we're facing now, I think, have to do with the complexity of the diagnostic landscape. We've talked about comorbid conditions, confusable conditions, and we certainly see that in the quote here. This poses a challenge for our patient community. The other thing I want to make sure to point out is that we've talked about how trauma can be a predisposing factor for this condition. I also want to point out explicitly that trauma can also be a byproduct of a painful and invasive diagnostic process if we are not careful. So even post-diagnosis, there still seems to be a lack of knowledge in the general provider community about how to put together an effective treatment plan for patients. We see this every single day in our online support community. We see patient reports of provider recommendations that I will say are interesting, to say the least. And so I want to reiterate that the lack of consensus that we have is having a direct impact on patient outcomes. I don't need to get on my soapbox. We know that this condition has a profound impact on quality of life and daily functioning. Anything from being able to go on vacation and travel with family, to being able to go to work and back, sitting in a car for longer periods of time. And the other thing that I think is really interesting, a theme that I've seen in my own qualitative research, is that there seems to be this theme of pretty significant personal burden of care. And I don't bring this up to say that patients should not have accountability or shared decision-making. Complex chronic conditions require partnerships between providers and patients, but we are seeing patients take a lot of leadership in the direction of their care. And while that can be wonderful and empowering, there is also the risk that, especially for folks who are desperate or vulnerable, to seek information from less than reputable resources, to be taken advantage of, and to embark upon treatment pathways that may not only be not helpful, may actually be harmful in various ways. We all know that this takes a toll emotionally and psychologically, as this person talks about. I chose this image because I sometimes talk about feeling bent but not broken. And on a related note, but separate, I think we have to acknowledge the impact on identity that comes with living with this condition. We know that we all have lots of roles in our lives, and when you have chronic pain or you have a condition like this, you stop being able to do certain things, or you perceive that you are no longer able to do those things, as this person laments feeling less than as a woman, as a wife. And when that happens, you can feel like part of your identity is taken from you, and there is a grieving process that happens. So I say all of this just to remind everyone of what your patients, if you're a clinician, what your patients may be experiencing or feeling as they walk through the door to seek care from you. And it's just a reminder that, honestly, one of the most effective things you can do for us, at least from the get-go, make eye contact, listen to us, validate our concerns, have a little empathy. That goes a really, really long way. Now, you don't have to do all of this on your own, though. And so I do want to point out that as a patient advocacy organization, we can help. So first and foremost, just referring patients to us. We're going to debut a really nice new little prescription referral pad at AUA. Stop by our booth, by the way. Get them to us. We can absolutely help them build out a multidisciplinary provider team through our provider registry. We have support group listings, and we curate timely, relevant, and evidence-based education for our patients. I also want to say that we can help with lots of other things too. We've been talking about clinical trials, study design, patient registries. We absolutely can help. If you want the patient perspective in your study design, come talk to us. We can help with things like patient recruitment and retention. Importantly, we already help with recruitment because of our patient network. I have researchers coming to us, usually after they've gotten IRB approval, and they send me their recruitment flyer and just give me a little aside here. I'm going to implore you to please stop putting images of women grabbing their crotches on recruitment flyers. There are better visuals. We can help you with that. Okay? In addition, we can also help you with dissemination and translation of key study findings. And I happen to believe that we should absolutely be involved in the co-creation of educational materials that represent consensus findings that also incorporate the patient values and perspectives. Finally, I just want to say that you as clinicians and researchers, you all have a microphone that we don't have all the time as patients and patient advocates. Please use it. We have now more than ever have a need for both an amplified and collective voice around research funding, especially around the CDC and NIH. And if you want to be engaged in the ICA's advocacy work, please reach out to us. We would welcome you with open arms. Thank you.